So these words right below me really just say it all. A horrible, horrible loss for the Philadelphia Eagles. Dallas Cowboys beat the Detroit Lions last night, and it sets up nicely and perfectly for Philadelphia with an opportunity if they won out against Arizona this week, against the Giants next week, to win the NFC East, to become the first repeat winner of this division since 2004. All you had to do was beat a bad Cardinals team and an even worse Giants team for the second time in 3 weeks. What did Philadelphia do? They lost to Arizona in a listless, disgusting, despicable loss at Lincoln Financial Field here today. And you look at the NFC playoff picture right now, Philadelphia most likely is going to have to go on the road to play the winner of the NFC South in the opening round of the playoffs. Philadelphia, if they won today, still had an opportunity at the number 1 seed, home field advantage. They were shaping up nicely to maybe get the number 2 seed, and now sliding all the way down to the 5th spot. Because if the Dallas Cowboys beat the Washington Commanders on the road next week, Dallas will win the NFC East. They are 8-0 at AT&T Stadium. And now the Cowboys are set up nicely for the NFL playoffs. And Philadelphia, if they want to go back to the Super Bowl, might have to win 3 consecutive road games. With that, I ask you this. This is Philadelphia Eagles Now. We're live. No matter where you are, how you're tuned in on this New Year's Eve, we appreciate you for making our show a part of your day. Is it over for the Eagles? I want to hear from you in the comment section right now. O for over, B for believe. What do you think about this team right now? We're going to start to give you some shout-outs. And if you want to send in a super chat to support the show, we'd greatly appreciate that. Obviously, we couldn't go live today for our watch party, which does a lot in supporting the channel and driving super chat. So if we can make up for that today with our post-game show, I certainly appreciate that. Poppenheim said it's over. The Rebound Advent said, believe. Joshua, believe. Carol Hosey, I'm sorry, but it's over. Larry Curse, over. Joshua V, over. Noah C, over. Lucky says, believe. DR from you to you, it's over. Chad W says, it is over. Antonio, the play calling is atrocious. I'm telling you, we want to hear from you throughout the entire show. We're going to be doing a mailbag as well, so you can start to get your questions in, and we'll be able to use this as a therapy session on Eagles Now. Our live coverage is sponsored by PrizePicks, by the way. Get a $100 deposit match at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use the code CLNS. This is daily fantasy sports made easy and the largest independently run daily fantasy sports app in North America. You pick 2 or more players, you choose more or less on their projected stats, and you have the opportunity to win up to 25 times your money. So go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS. Easy and exciting daily fantasy. We'll put that link down below in the comments section, and it's already hanging out in the description of this video. There's certainly a lot to get to, and as I noted, we do want to hear from all Eagles fans out there who are fired up about this loss to Arizona. So we're going to do one segment in which we really break down and dissect what went wrong in this game. Devonta Smith apparently suffered a serious injury. He left the stadium on crutches and in a walking boot. We have some thoughts on that as well. And then after that, our second segment, going to do a mailbag. So use the hashtag Eagles or send in a super chat to get featured right here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. If you're ready to get after it, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon. And I want you to like the video. 188 people watching live right now. Can we get the stream to 100 likes before we officially get started? Sava, Joe Hall, Davis, Dennis Designs, Jimmy Conley, Vendetta, David Marcella, all a part of the recent commenter club. So make sure that you hit that thumbs up icon, like the video to support the show. Tamar Bowles, why did you do Niners instead of Eagles? Conflict on the schedule here today. It's the larger channel, obviously, so had to side over there. It's the only watch party we haven't been able to do, but on this New Year's Eve, I could have gone home but we're live here on Eagles Now to give you the best coverage right here on YouTube. We're up to 65 likes. There's a lot to get into and venture into with this Eagles loss to Arizona. So let's recap it and let's talk about it right now. It's officially a nightmare for the Philadelphia Eagles. A horrible, horrendous, ugly, despicable loss to the Arizona Cardinals at home in Week 17 when everything was set up nicely for Philadelphia. They had an opportunity to control their own destiny, and Arizona comes in and they dominate the Eagles in the second half, run it right through that Eagles defense, punch them in the teeth. The Eagles did not respond, and the Birds fall 35-31 to the Cardinals. They blew a 21-6 halftime lead, and in the second half, this Cardinals team, led by Jonathan Gannon, former Eagles defensive coordinator, outscored the Eagles 29-10. I have a lot of thoughts about this loss, what transpired, the ugliness of it, and we're going to talk about this coaching staff, but we do have to begin with the most important news coming out of this game, and it is the injury to Eagles wide receiver Devonta Smith. Last drive for Philadelphia, previous to the Hail Mary, he got rolled up on as the lead blocker on a 3rd and 19 screen. There was a little bit of a bubble pass from Jalen Hurts to the left side, and Devonta Smith was the blocker. Somebody fell into the back of his leg, and it didn't look pretty. He left the stadium on crutches as well as in a walking boot, and it looks as though Devonta Smith has suffered a potentially serious injury. This obviously has a lot of ramifications for this Eagles offense. He's one of the top wide receivers in the NFL. He's a deep threat. You could put him in the slot, on the outside. He's developed a great rapport with Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts. He was having a pretty solid couple of week stretch without Dallas Goedert, and over the last couple of weeks, he's been providing an explosive element to this Eagles offense. And if you're shorthanded, you're already somewhat thin at that wide receiver spot. Yes, you have A.J. Brown, who once again is putting together a marvelous season. But Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown, the only two wide receivers in Eagles franchise history to have back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. If Smith is out for an extended period of time going into the playoffs, that is a huge loss for this Eagles team. You have to imagine he's going to undergo an X-ray, an MRI to come as well. But for him to leave the stadium on crutches and in a walking boot, that is not a good sign and adds even more of a bitter taste to your mouths as an Eagles fan and after the Eagles suffered this listless loss. You look at these offensive numbers for the Arizona Cardinals. It's almost as if this switch to Matt Patricia didn't work. And it's almost as if Nick Sirianni made the wrong decision as far as a coaching change, or this was a panic move, and this is something that hasn't really solved many of the Eagles' issues. Because yes, this Eagles defense had gotten better on third downs and in the red zone the last 2 weeks, but it's come against Drew Lock and Tommy DeVito and Tyrod Taylor. They went up against Kyler Murray, and Kyler Murray cooked them throughout the duration of the day. And the Cardinals were able to run the ball right through the heart of that Eagles defense, putting up 449 total yards, good for a yards per play of 6.2. Kyler Murray, 25-31, 228 yards, made some plays out of structure, was able to shake off a Josh Sweat sack and throw for a touchdown on that one-handed grab to James Conner. This is really the big number here right here, though. And this is unacceptable for this Eagles team. The Cardinals ran it 40 times for 221 yards, and average yards per pop of 5.5. And ever since this Eagles defense went into the bye, giving up the fewest rushing yards per game in the NFL, they've all of a sudden become an awful rushing defense. And what's awful about this defeat for the Eagles is that they got a 99-yard pick six off of Kyler Murray for Sidney Brown. That was the turnover. Oftentimes, the Eagles have been on the other side, the wrong side of some of these turnovers. You had that momentum changer. You go into recess with a 21-6 advantage, and then you get dump trucked in the second half, giving up 29 points, and you only score 10. those are 2 straight weeks now against the Giants and against the Cardinals where Philadelphia has gone into the locker room with control and they've lost those advantages. The Cardinals, because the Eagles couldn't get them off the field and they kept running it time and time again, dominated time of possession, almost 40 minutes to 20. And then you look at this Eagles offense. Part of this, and the difference between the numbers, is that Philadelphia wasn't on the field all that much. You had the time of possession at 20 minutes right here. But this offense had opportunities for long drives, to put points up on the scoreboard, to make things go in their favor. And it seems as though this Eagles offense is to blame on top of this Eagles defense being to blame. Because this is an offensive-laden team. This is an offensive-driven organization. Yet situationally, they are really, really bad. They put up 275 yards. Yards per play is good at 5.9. Jalen Hurts only throwing it 24 times for 184 yards. The Eagles got to their benchmark of running it 23 times for 91 yards. It's good to see that the running game has returned, and it's been successful. But something is just wrong with this Eagles team here. And ever since that loss to the San Francisco 49ers, when the Eagles were 10-1, this has just not been the same football team. Arizona ran 38 offensive plays in the second half. 19 of them went for first downs. Think about that again. 38 offensive plays in the second half for this Cardinals team. 19 went for first downs. So they were getting chunk play after chunk play after chunk play, and this Eagles defense had no answers. And the unfortunate part of this Eagles loss is that they controlled their own destiny. They had an opportunity with the win today to maybe get the number 1 seed if the 49ers were to lose next week to the Rams. They had an opportunity to get the number 2 seed, and now all of that has slipped away from their grasp. It looks as though the Eagles are going to have to go on the road in the wild card round to play the winner of the NFC South, which mathematically is most likely going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Philadelphia beat Tampa Bay earlier this year on Monday Night Football in Week 3. But with the way that Tampa has been playing, and Baker Mayfield up until today had been slinging it, and with the Eagles free-falling here, what is the line of that game going to be? Are the Eagles even going to be road favorites against the Buccaneers? That's how quickly things have changed for this Eagles team. They were 10-1, and now they've lost 4 of 5. And after last night, we were rooting for the Cowboys to beat the Lions. They were gifted that win by the officials, but we were rooting for the Cowboys to beat the Lions because if the Eagles beat the Cardinals, most likely going to beat the Giants next week, or at this point, you don't know what's going to happen week to week with this team. The Eagles were most likely going to be sitting pretty in that number 2 spot. Now, they drop all the way down to the 5th seed, and if they have any hopes of making it back to the Super Bowl, they're going to have to go on the road and win 3 times in the NFC playoffs. And the chances of doing that, very, very thin. What's concerning about this team right now, they've gone from 10-1 to 11-5. They have lost 4 of 5 throughout my entire lifetime. Usually Philadelphia is a team that plays its best football in December and January. And they've been one of the most successful organizations in the NFL since the turn of the century. To lose 4 of 5 with everything in front of you is uncharacteristic of this organization. And Hassan Reddick even said it best. We blew a great opportunity here today. So they've lost 4 of 5. They're going into the playoffs playing bad football. Sloppy mistakes continue from turnovers to penalties to communication issues where the Eagles are unable to get the right personnel in on time, and they're unable to communicate the play to Jalen Hurts, and that's why Nick Sirianni had to call 2 timeouts when Philadelphia could have used those timeouts. This defense continues to be awful, and this is a poorly coached football team. Offense, defense, special teams. This Eagles team is a far cry from what they were last year when they were a buttoned-up, talented, explosive team that had 70 sacks, which led the NFL, and one of the best offenses in the National Football League. So what say you? This is today's poll question, and this will be our pinned comment. Is it over for the Eagles this year? Type O for over, B for you still believe. This will be the pinned comment on our show, so make sure you go on down and you let your voices be heard. Today's Eagles Now, by the way, is sponsored by PrizePicks. Get a $100 deposit match at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use the code CLNS. Daily fantasy sports made easy, and this is the largest independently run daily fantasy sports app in North America. You choose more or less on 2 or more players' projected stat lines, and you can win up to 25 times your money this season. Producer Chip and myself, we always get our prize picks in. Meek Mill is even in on the PrizePicks games. If you've been watching a lot of NFL like we have, PrizePicks starting to run a lot of ads. That's because this app is the go-to app for daily fantasy sports. So sign up today. $100 deposit match, prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS. You put in $100, you get $100 back. I have some notes that I want to get to and some thoughts, opinions that I want to share before we get on out of here. A.J. Brown, still not happy. And I thought that this was pretty telling, that the media went up to his locker room after the game, and he said, I'm not going to talk. There's nothing to talk about. There's nothing to say. It's nothing towards y'all, the media, though, just to clear that up. I know that A.J. Brown, in an article done, in a column done by Mike Sealski of the Philadelphia Inquirer, explained some of his mental health issues. But for him to say it's not the media is pretty telling. To me, he's tired of this coaching staff. And he's tired of this coaching staff not living up to their standard. And he's tired of the players not living up to their standard. And it seems as though something massive is missing from this team year over year. And we did a show last week about A.J. Brown being frustrated. And statistically, he should be frustrated. He's actually put up more numbers on more targets, more catches, and more yards this year compared to last year. But this offense isn't the same unit. This team isn't the same team. And they continue to make dumbass mistake after dumbass mistake. And I think A.J. Brown is just tired of it. And maybe things are starting to come into a clearer view where A.J. Brown is just tired of it all. And he wants to send a message that this is not the standard. This is not good enough. Now, you could say that he could handle himself a little bit better. And maybe you have a point there. But for him to be this frustrated is certainly telling from one of the Eagles team captains, by the way. Sirianni on the Eagles sticking together. He said the message is to stick together. Stick together. A lot of people are going to try pointing fingers, but we're in the playoffs. We're in the playoffs, and a lot of teams just want to be in the playoffs. We got to stick together. We still have goals we want to accomplish. Worry and concern doesn't get any problems fixed. It's good for the coach to say that. And when you hear that, cool, right? But when have you seen a team backpedal into the playoffs, lose 4 of 5 going into the final week, commit this many penalties, turn the ball over, have these communication issues, have a defense that's this bad, and an offense that wanes in consistency, actually make a deep run? And that's what's starting to come into focus now. For me, in analyzing and examining this team, I've tried to maintain my positivity. I've tried to tell people to not panic. Now we're officially at a time where you have to start to hit that panic button. You got to win over the Giants last week. If you won this game and you won the game against the Giants next week, that's 3 consecutive wins going into the playoffs. If anything, the aura of the locker room, the confidence of the team, the mental health of this organization are in a better spot. We saw offensive glimpses last week. We saw offensive glimpses this week. We saw defensive strides the previous 2 weeks before falling off a cliff in this game against Arizona where you could not stop the run at all. And now, all of that good fortune, all of that good momentum that you built up last week is gone. And now the Eagles once again are tense. The Eagles going into the final game are tight. Yeah, Nick Sirianni, they might be in the playoffs, but does anybody truly believe? And do the players in that locker room have any faith or belief that they can actually make it back to the Super Bowl? I really don't think so. And I think that that realization is setting in for a player like A.J. Brown. Nick Sirianni, when asked about the final drive after the onside kick, at this point, it is a tied ball game, and Philadelphia catches the onside kick. Eli Ricks. Arizona, weird decision to go for the onside kick. There's about 5 minutes left, but the Eagles are gifted the football inside the 50. If you score a touchdown there, at worst, Arizona's going to be able to drive down again, and they can tie the game with the touchdown, or they can go for the win on a 2-point conversion. But Philadelphia, I thought, got so conservative in that spot. And the play calling was mind-numbing. This is an organization, this is a team culture led by Nick Sirianni, who's even said, we always want to be aggressive. We always want to go for the kill shot. We want the big explosive plays. This is an Eagles team that under Sirianni has gone for the throat slash. But they get gifted a great opportunity to put the game away. And if you go all the way down the field there, inside the 50, and you milk the clock, you can just win the game altogether right there. But the Eagles went quarterback run, and a screen. And it was way too conservative. And Sirianni said, I don't think that's conservative. If they're blitzing the gaps, you run a gap scheme. We could have thrown it, but we chose to run it, and it didn't hit. It didn't work. The screen, that's going to be tough to convert. The wind was blowing in our face there. We had to get in range. You had to get in range, but that was also the play where Devonta Smith got injured, and you picked up 5 yards. You already have Jake Elliott. You have a lot of confidence in him that he's going to be able to bury a deep kick, and he did once again from, 45 yards or whatever it was. Get aggressive. You saw what happened against the Giants last week when you basically won the game on the 3rd and 20 with Jalen Hurts throwing it downfield to A.J. Brown. Take a shot. Be aggressive. Instead, you go quarterback run, and a screen to the left, which had no shot on a 3rd and long. Of course, the Eagles penalized there on that drive as well by Jordan Mailata, who in back-to-back weeks has had awful penalties in awful spots. That's the thing with this Eagles team. They continue to shoot themselves in the foot. And these are correctable issues, but they continue to happen. And it's almost as if this team is just pressing. And after making it to the Super Bowl last year and losing, they seem mentally worn down and mentally fatigued. Jalen Hurts trying to inspire his teammates after the game. He said, everything we want is still in front of us. That is technically true. Brandon Graham, we're close to fixing our issues. We're not that far off as a defense, man, but I know it's going to start clicking. We have to finish the season off right, and from there, it's a week-to-week thing. You have one game now to get it right. And after those 3 consecutive losses, you had 3 games to get it right. You crossed that box off against the Giants, although that game was way more interesting than it should have been. This was another opportunity to kind of stack and gather your momentum. And you're going to say this defense is close when they had the worst defensive performance in the Nick Sirianni regime? When the Cardinals were able to just run it right at you and you had no answers, and they're able to pick up all those first downs in that second half? You want to say the defense is close? What tells you that this defense is close? And Jalen Hurts, everything we want is still in front of us. Yes, technically true. That's like coach speak, quarterback speak. But again, going back to what I said earlier, when have you seen a team back into the playoffs like this and actually catch fire in the playoffs? 2017 was a little bit different. Nick Foles didn't play all that well late into the year, but the Eagles had home field advantage that year. So at the very least, they knew that the NFC was going to go through Lincoln Financial Field. And now, because you lose this game today, you might have to win 3 road games just to get back to the Super Bowl. And again, the opportunity and the chances of doing that are very, very slim. Kevin Byard with just a head-scratching statement after the game. He said we weren't physical enough. Are you kidding me? Again, it's this bad Arizona team with this much at stake in front of the hard-working fans of the Eagles who are paying a lot of money to go to these games. You're not reaching and you're not matching the level of physicality from the Arizona Cardinals. I get it that a lot of NFL executives have said this is one of the better 3-win teams we've seen. They're better than what their record indicates. Shoot, they beat the Cowboys a little bit earlier this year. They've hung tough with the 49ers. They've played in a lot of one-score games. But you know, this is a spot where you got to have it. And you're not physical enough? That's unacceptable. Again, the Eagles up 21-6. You had a pick six that went 99 yards back to the crib, and you had 2 Julio Jones touchdowns from Jalen Hurts. That's momentum right there. That's an opportunity to win the NFC East if you win this game in next week, and you squander that. And check out these Cardinals second half drives. 10 plays, 75 yards and a touchdown. 9 plays, 77 yards and a touchdown. 8 plays, 77 yards and a touchdown. 7 plays, 70 yards and a touchdown. Only 2 third downs forced by the Eagles defense. They've been so bad on third downs, they didn't even want to get into third downs. And they said, screw it, we'll just give up big plays instead. And then lastly, on the injury front, Avonte Maddox appeared to be headed for the x-ray machine, holding his left arm close to his side. He just came off IR, off a pec injury. And now he might be injured once again, on top of Devonta Smith, maybe suffering a bad injury as well. Share your thoughts with me down below in the comments section. This sucks. And make sure you subscribe to the show, youtube.com/Eagles Now. In a wide open league, without like a bona fide clear-cut favorite outside of the Ravens and maybe the Niners, Eagles are letting a great opportunity go by the wayside. Let's get to your super chats here. The players have checked out. Every coach should be fired. And we'll include these in the mailbag as well. But yeah, like that's the concern, is that the players seem to have just like checked out. Where's the effort? And it's weird because of the relationship that Sirianni has with players and how successful that he's been, for this team to just be performing this poorly in all facets. Emmanuel Henderson, $20 super chat. Who do you blame? Everyone. We're playing like the Dallas Cowboys of the 2000s. Poor execution, bad play calling, the defense playing touch football instead of tackling. This team needs to get their head out of their asses. Team needs to get the head out of their asses. And we've been saying this literally all year. I mean, it started with the ugliness of that Patriots win. And it's legitimately just carried itself through from week 1 through week 17. Mike Persia, $5 super chat. I still have hope, but the preseason vanilla offense and lack of tackling on defense definitely ain't getting us far in the playoffs. Again, what's going to change so drastically where the Eagles team can catch fire? I just don't know how it happens. Emmanuel Henderson, $10. It looks like the ghost of Rich Kotite is what you meant to say. And Chip Kelly is still hurting this team and hunting this team. This does have Chip Kelly, Rich Kotite fraudulent vibes, where Chip's first 2 years, they went 10-6. Year 1 was awesome. Year 2, not good. Year 3, disaster. Didn't even make it to the end of the year. And then Kotite had success early on, and then the team just completely melted him after that. And yeah, that's kind of the path that we're on right now. 2 good years to start, and the third year, they still have 11 wins, but kind of a disaster. All right, let's talk some Eagles next. Use the hashtag Eagles or send in a super chat to get featured here on Eagles Now. That's hashtag Eagles or send in a super chat to get on the show. We could use some more questions and comments. Producer Chip is telling me. So again, use the hashtag Eagles or super chat to get on the program here. Words of wisdom. $5 super chat. We can include that in the mailbag. We're up to $44 in super chats. If we get to 100, I'll crack a drink and we'll have a drink together for New Year's Eve. We're 45 away, or 55 away, from 100. And we'll celebrate New Year's Eve, and maybe we'll just drink away our sorrows. Hashtag Eagles or super chat to get involved. Good game between Pittsburgh and Seattle, by the way. 27-20 Steelers. George Pickens just caught a long ball to set up a field goal attempt. Other than that, pretty interesting day across the NFL. Cash in greatness. So tired of the word execute. So am I. We got to execute. At one point, are you actually going to execute? Dennis Designs chant Eagles suck Right now, that's true. Eagles suck. Eagles suck. Eagles suck. That's the reality right now. And I'm going to carry myself just like fans would at the game, where the Eagles deserve to get booed. They really did. All right, let's start to take your questions here on Eagles Now. Therapy session with Eagles fans. A happy new year to everybody watching. This is Philadelphia Eagles Now. Despite the Birds' loss, which was just awful and ugly to the Arizona Cardinals on New Year's Eve, hope all of you are kicking off 2024 in great fashion and you had a safe and entertaining and fun night last night, maybe even drinking away your sorrows from that Eagles loss. Coming up on today's show, a therapy session of sorts. We want to hear from Eagles fans everywhere. Do they still believe in this football team, or is this season over for Philadelphia, and how can they turn it around? Let's explore it all here on Eagles Now. I'm Chase Sr. Thanks for being here. Let's begin with David Marcella, a $5 super chat. The players have checked out. Every coach should be fired. I'm not going to go as far as to say that every coach should be fired. And I've been a staunch defender of Nick Sirianni. I think he's done a really good job in his now 3 seasons as head coach. Year 1 of a rebuild, overcomes the slow start, Eagles make it to the playoffs. And I like how he pivoted a couple of things during that rookie season. He gave up play calling for Shane Steichen, it worked. And the Eagles went from a pass-happy offense to a run-heavy offense, which fit their personnel, and it worked out. And to make the playoffs in year 1 of a rebuild was a win. And then last year was a magical season. Eagles were blowing everybody out. They went 14-3, number 1 seed. Home field advantage went through Lincoln Financial Field. They played a really good game against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl that they frankly should have won, and they choked it away. And Nick Sirianni was a part of that. Up by 10 at halftime. The James Bradbury hold was just a crusher, because I do believe that if Jalen Hurts got the ball back there with about 90 seconds left, given how the Eagles offense performed, he was going to be able to march the Eagles down the field to get a win. I really do believe that, because that's how the pace of the game was really moving. This year, though, all year, the Eagles have been sloppy. Going back to the preseason, Nick Sirianni was flipping out during preseason practices because of bad communication, because of penalties, because of sloppy play, because the Eagles were not in sync. They were not in line. And all year, from the Patriots game week 1, all the way up until now, this has been an Eagles team that is out of sorts, where something doesn't feel right. And somebody said it in the comments section. I'm so tired of hearing the word execute. I'm damn tired of hearing the word execute as well. When are you going to go out and actually execute for a full 4 quarters and for a full 60 minutes? The Eagles this year, think about this, with how dominant they were last year, going into halftime with multi-score leads, have not played a full game from minute 1 to minute 60. Not a clean game from minute 1 to minute 60. And it does feel as though right now that the players have checked out a little bit. You do have the team leaders like Brandon Graham, Lane Johnson, Fletcher Cox, Jalen Hurts. They still believe. Jason Kelsey. But A.J. Brown continues to decline to talk with the media. You have Hassan Reddick saying, yep, we blew it. You have all these arguments on the sideline. Something is not right. And you have to wonder what's going through Jeffrey Lurie's mind and Howie Roseman's mind if the Eagles are winning out in the playoffs. I'm not going to go as far as to say that Nick Sirianni's seat is hot, but they have some questions to ask themselves. And Nick Sirianni's got to look in the mirror if this Eagles team does go winning out. And right now, would it surprise you with them backpedaling into the playoffs? It wouldn't surprise me. Emmanuel Henderson, $20 super chat. Who do you blame? Everyone. We're playing like the Cowboys of the 2000s. Poor execution, bad play calling. The defense is playing touch football instead of tackling. This team needs to get their head out of their asses. The Cowboys have always been an organization that has not been buttoned up, that commits penalties, that has false starts, delay of games. They're awful with game management, and still are. Mike McCarthy, his decision to throw the ball on second down gave the Lions an opportunity to win that game, and they should have. won that game. But the Eagles are sloppy just like that. Poor execution. Bad play calling on offense and defense. It's unbelievable that the Eagles are able to give up 200-plus rushing yards to that Cardinals team and to not be able to get off the field and even force third downs. Eagles forced 2 third downs in the second half against Arizona. The Cardinals' drives went as such: 10 plays, 75 yards, and a touchdown. 9 plays, 77 yards, and a touchdown. 8 plays, 77 yards, and a touchdown. 7 plays, 70 yards, and a touchdown. This team does need to get their head out of their asses. And their head has been in their asses since training camp. When back then we were talking about this team, reports, a little bit sloppy. Mike Persia, I still have hope, but the preseason vanilla offense and lack of tackling on defense definitely ain't getting us far in the playoffs. There's just no rhythm, and there's no consistency to what the Eagles do on the offensive side of the ball. And it does get pretty vanilla with not a lot of creativity there. And for Kevin Byard to say, we didn't match the Cardinals' level of physicality, how is that something that a player says for a team that is looking to lock down the division and potentially get the number 1 or number 2 seed in the playoffs against a bad Cardinals team? You don't match their level of physicality? Inexcusable, man. And going back to Marcella's point, maybe some Eagles players have checked out. Words of wisdom 5. Chase, not you, but to every Eagles fan, screw you. This is what you get for being such pricks about Brock's injury last year, eating popcorn over your demise. It ain't pretty in the streets of Philadelphia right now. And with the way that the Eagles have been playing, they've opened themselves up to this type of negative talk from others. Emmanuel Henderson, $20 super chat. Sorry about the bad grammar. I'm so pissed watching this game today. What is Howie and Jeffrey Lurie thinking about the last couple of games? Howie's to blame as well. This Eagles linebacking core, I'm sorry. If you have a kid watching, I'll give you 5 seconds to mute it. This Eagles linebacking core is a fucking joke. It really is. They're running out the corpse of Shaq Leonard. Nicholas Morrow can't cover. Zach Cunningham didn't play. You're playing Ben Van Sumeren, a UDFA out of Michigan State, significant snaps. They can't plug the holes in the ground game. They can't make plays against the ground game. And in the pass game, they continue to get exposed. The safety position, you addressed it too late. Desperation heave for Kevin Byard, who has just been okay. You should have brought back C.J. Gardner-Johnson. And so Howie is to blame for some of this stuff. Jeffrey Lurie is probably like, man, losing 4 or 5 down the stretch under my ownership, this hasn't happened a lot. And it hasn't. Under Andy Reid, Doug Peterson, Nick Sirianni, historically, during my lifetime, this has been a team that plays clutch football in December and January. And right now, they're doing anything but. And I imagine that Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie, and hopefully Nick Sirianni, they're having conversations. What went wrong and what's going on? Because something ain't right. Today's show sponsored by PrizePicks. Start off 2024 right by going to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use the code CLNS for a $100 deposit match. What that means is you put in $100, you get $100 back. And this is the largest independently run daily fantasy sports app in North America. It's daily fantasy sports made easy. You pick 2 or more players. You choose more or less on their projected stat lines, and you can win up to 25 times your money this season. Let's continue to move forward and answer some of your questions. Tariq Shell, that game was BS. What kind of play was that 21-point lead and you choked? The OC, DC, and head coach need to go. I think the Eagles might be making a change at defensive coordinator. They've already made one change, but I think they're really going to try to get a better defensive coordinator in here. Us thinking that Matt Patricia was going to solve issues and Nick Sirianni thinking that Matt Patricia was going to be the answer. It's kind of hilarious in hindsight. I will say, previous 2 games, I even said, like, the Eagles were better on third down and in the red zone, but I cautioned everybody and did say, this is coming against Drew Lock and Tyrod Taylor and Tommy DeVito. What happens when you go up against a better quarterback? Today, they went up against a better quarterback and Kyler Murray. And Kyler Murray was able to make some exceptional plays. But was also awful about this Eagles game is just the amount of rushing yards that they gave up. And Arizona clearly had a game plan. They pinpointed that Philadelphia is not going to be able to stop the run, and they wanted to go right at them, and they wanted to force Philadelphia, who's been down and out mentally, to match their level of physicality. Eagles weren't able to do that. 40 carries, 221 yards from the Cardinals. That right there is embarrassing. Bird Gang Eagles, this defense is very bad, but I don't think we are a Super Bowl contender. But if we can clean all this up before the playoffs, can we still be a Super Bowl contender? Again, I'm just going to go back to this. I can't think really of a scenario in which a team has been able to play this poorly, lose 4 of 5 going into the final week, be this disjointed offensively and defensively with weird vibes around it and everybody not getting along, and then be able to capture momentum and find a groove in the playoffs. I mean, it just rarely happens. So while I've tried to be the voice of reason, the voice of positivity, saying this Eagles team can still get it done, they're running out of time. And the momentum that they picked up last week is flushed down the toilet this week with this loss to Arizona. Ernesto, with today's loss, is it now impossible for the Eagles to win the NFC East, or is there some hope? What has to happen is that the Cowboys need to lose to the Commanders next week, and the Eagles need to win. And if that happens, the Eagles will win the division. But we really think that the Dallas Cowboys are going to lose to the Washington Commanders on the road in Week 18? It's a bad Commanders team. And they're not even sure who they're going to start at quarterback, whether it be Jacoby Brissett or Sam Howell. And they just got shut out in the second half by San Francisco and dominated in that game. So it is still possible. I just don't expect it to happen with the Cowboys losing to the Commanders, and then the Eagles have to beat the Giants. Samem, chances of a change in offensive coordinator or any other coaching positions. If we're talking about right now, it's just too late. Eagles won't be making any changes right now. It's too late in the game, too late in the process. This offseason, it's going to be fascinating to see what Nick Sirianni does. Tamar Bowles, how do we fix this for next year? If the Eagles get bounced in the first round and they backpedal into the playoffs, which is what they're doing right now, it's going to be a weird offseason. And this taste isn't going to go anywhere, right? This taste is going to continue, and it's a bad taste. And you have to wonder if the Eagles will make some somewhat sizable changes this offseason if these concerning things continue to happen. I don't think they're going to move on from Nick Sirianni after making it to the Super Bowl 2 years ago, but if the Eagles are flat next year and these issues continue, does it shock you if they move on from Sirianni after next year? It really wouldn't surprise me all that much. Colin, thoughts on Ringo and Ricks today? Came down to earth a little bit. Ricks and Ringo were picked apart a little bit during Sunday's game against Arizona. And it's so funny. Like, I did a show this week defending Nick Sirianni. Eagles play like this. I did a show saying that Keely Ringo, Eli Ricks, and Shaq Leonard have brought a boost to this Eagles defense, and they were bad. Like, Shaq Leonard had an opportunity at a tackle around the goal line, completely whiffed, led to a touchdown. And so Ringo and Ricks, part of the defensive struggles are because this Eagles team is so young on the defensive side of the ball. Getting Darius Slay back, that's much needed. James Bradbury continues to suck. Andriarno, $5 in, I think, European currency here. Worst loss I've seen in a decade of being an Eagles fan, at least from what I can remember. Shout out to the "What the hell are you doing" lady, though. Yeah, I want to marry her. She's in the stands. What the hell are you doing on that final drive? That was everybody. That was me. That was Chip. That was all of you. Every Eagles fan in the stadium. Quarterback run, screen pass. We're just going to settle for a field goal, knowing that our defense hasn't stopped Kyler Murray all day. Yeah, and you think about the moment, the significance of this game, what was at stake, what was possible for this Eagles team. This is as bad of a loss as it gets. What needs to happen for us to not be one and done? They're going to have to play their best football against what looks to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think the Bucs are going to win the division. And so they're going to have to go down there. Baker Mayfield's been cooking up until today. Who's to say he's not going to cook this secondary? Chris Godwin, Mike Evans against these DBs and this secondary? That's scary. Baker Mayfield up until Sunday has been clicking, playing really good ball. You're going to have to shore up the secondary. The pass rush is going to have to get home, and they continue to be in the witness protection program, nowhere to be found. And this Eagles offense got to stop committing penalties, can't turn the football over. Communication has to be a little bit better. Again, these things are correctable, but we've been talking about these things all year, and it's now about to be week 18, and they're still not fixed. Make sure you subscribe to the show. Make sure you turn on those notifications as well. Therefore, when we do go live, you'll be notified, and you get to stay in the know with all things Eagles year-round. Couple of super chats to get to. Happy New Year's, Eagles fans. Chase and the Chat Sports crew, thank you for your work in 2023. Alling, we appreciate that. I put your stuff in the mail, or at least gave it to our shipping department this past week, so hopefully you're going to get that soon, my guy. Appreciate your support. Dennis Designs, $20. Yeah, Chase, Happy New Year. Go home and have a good time. You too, Chip, if you're there. Chip is here.
Yep.
Chip is here.
I'm here.
We're down, we're out, we're sad, we're depressed, but hopefully tonight will be a good time. I could use a little cat nap, I'm not going to lie. That'd be nice.
Me too, dude. Me too.
Will we even make it to midnight? We will see.
Yeah, we'll see.
But no, yeah, appreciate that, Dennis. I did say if we got past 20 or 100, we'll crack a beer here. What else do people want to talk about in the chat?
Yeah, we can keep it going.
We can keep it going a little bit. We can keep it going a little bit.
You know what it is? New Year's Eve. If we can get to 200, I'll do a little beer bong.
Little beer bong for Chip for 200. It's New Year's Eve.
Here.
Help us pregame a little bit. Help us pregame a little bit.
Get it going a little bit. I kind of came down a little bit.
Yeah.
Probably will take a nap regardless, to be honest.
We're at 133 in supers.
So Carol asked a good question here. What major pieces could we lose in the offseason, provided things don't change?
How about Jason Kelsey and Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox? Today may have been their final game at Lincoln Financial Field. Think about that. There's just some pretty major pieces who have all been with this team for more than a decade. And I hope that they make a move at linebacker. Patrick Queen would be a great signing. Bringing back C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I know he said what he said, but you need a dog like that on this defense. Dennis Designs, Elon's rocket was a success. Did they launch today? I'm a big Elon guy. I like him, so I'm rooting for a success. Potential border. How does one How does one work or apply for Eagles chat? When a job comes up, we usually post it on like an Indeed or a Sportscasters Talent Agency of America. That's how I found this job back in 2020, at the end of 2020. Then I came here in 2021. But no openings that I know of as of right now. We could use some producers at some point. But to work for Eagles chat, me and Chip are holding it down. And that's the crew right now. And hopefully that doesn't change for a long time.
How far are you making the playoffs, David? Dude. Not much past the wild card round at this point.
Yeah, like, again, I posed this a little bit earlier. Would the Eagles be favored against the Buccaneers? And if they are they 3-point favorites? About it? We're at 135 in supers. If we get to 150, I'll give y'all a shotgun. Fat Cat says, I killed the old Eagles Now guy. No, I did not. I did not kill anybody. I'm innocent. 15 more, I'll shotgun. If not, I'll just crack it and we'll have a drink together.
Happy New Year, Brazzy Smacks. Happy New Year, everybody out there.
Let's get it in 2 minutes. Yeah, Happy New Year, Brazzy Smacks. David Gwanson, we're the new Minnesota Vikings. We're not that bad.
Nah, come on.
I mean, in my lifetime, 7 NFC Championship games and 3 Super Bowls. Vikings would never. Vikings would never. Words of wisdom, send in a super chat on the Tush Push. We could pop that up.
Oh, here it is.
When the tush push is your biggest offensive play. Honestly, he's not wrong, though. The most innovative and creative thing that the Eagles do as an offense is the tush push. How wild is that?
They even threw a pass out of it from the running back.
Yeah, they
today.
threw a Kenneth Gainwell pass out of the tush push today.
The lefty Kenneth
That was
Gainwell.
cool.
Never knew that.
Downfield to Devonta Smith. That was awesome.
It's going to be interesting. A lot of vets could be out.
Yeah, this team a little bit old, so they could move on, and it'd be emotional from Fletcher Cox and Brandon Grant, both free agents. If Jason Kelce wants to come back, I still think he's playing at a high level, and I wonder if he'd want to go out like this. I also feel like he might want just like a retirement tour to a certain degree. Words of wisdom, we love you too, Brody. Hope you and the family have a good night. Oh! Dennis Designs. Dennis Designs. Dennis Designs. That calls for a shotgun. And we're $15 away now from a producer chip beer bong.
I already know it's going to happen. I'm just going to go get the drink now.
He's just going to go get it.
I'm going to wait, but I know it's going to happen.
Producer chip beer bong, 15 away. 15 away. And I'm going to shotgun for DD. Dennis. Marcelo with the 2. He changed his profile picture. New profile picture. Flag a chain. Happy New Year's, boys. Oh, that's the flag that we sent you, right? Yeah, we'll throw it up there for Marcella.
We'll throw it up there. People deserve to see it.
Happy New Year from Dennis. Des215, Happy New Year to you. Pop that Marcella picture up here in a sec.
Yeah. Look at that.
Oh, we sent him the turnover chain. Did you win the flag from us too, Marcel? I think you did, right? I think that's a double Eagles Now award wall. That's pretty dope.
That's dope.
The
That's
flag
awesome.
and the chain, as he said. At the crib right there. That's awesome. Marcella. 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 All right, 13 away from a producer chip beer bong. And then after that, we can sign off. So that Chip and I can get a nap before we get our pregame party in for New Year's Eve. Birds need a ball hawk from Wow Nelly. C.J. Gardner-Johnson.
I was thinking the same thing.
C.J. Gardner-Johnson missed 4 games last year, still tied for the NFL high in interceptions, and brought a swagger to this Eagles defense. Mr. Gamer, hot take Phillies are doing better than the Eagles. How about Arizona owning Philadelphia?
Oh, God.
Diamondbacks and the Cardinals.
When do the Suns play the Sixers?
Oh,
when do the Suns play? You
Suns
imagine this
Sixers
year?
finals and we lose again to an Arizona team? Dennis Designs, I got to win something. Have you not won anything yet, Dennis?
Won anything? That would surprise me.
Chase got a bartender set for Christmas. Your favorite drink? My favorite drink. My mom loved margaritas, so I like margaritas for mom.
Can't go wrong
But
there.
sometimes they get a little bit too sugary to have multiple margaritas. Honestly, a simple drink that I really like is a whiskey, soda water, and lime. Or a tequila soda and lime. And then I also like to mix in a little whiskey with ginger ale. But I'll take shots of whiskey, take shots of tequila. An old-fashioned, as I've gotten a little bit older, they're good drinks too. That's a couple right there, words. And then he said, Chip, what is your favorite drink? I will make it.
Huh. Yeah, I'm usually either a big You know, I'm young still, all right? I'm 22. You got to remember, I just graduated college.
Chip and I went to the Cotton Bowl, and he was just pounding Miller Lights.
But like, you know, if I'm going out, I'm either going with a good old whiskey Coke or a rum and Coke.
Nice.
Those are my go-tos.
Sounds like a 22-year-old drink. You know what I really want, Words, is one of those smokers that you put over that whiskey drink, and you get the torch out with the embers or whatever, and you have that smoke come up from the whiskey. That's kind of what I want.
I will say I love a good mojito as well.
Mojitos are good.
I'm a big mojito guy.
Mojitos are good. What's the Moscow mules are good.
Oh,
I like Moscow mules.
I love me a good mule, man.
Jake Reitma here at the office makes some good Moscow mules. Wow, Nelly said a smoked whiskey. Hey, we're $11 away from a producer Chip beer bong, and he can have his favorite drink outside of those. That's a beer. Steve Stretch, $20. Get a nap, fellas. I'm still cleaning up the vomit from watching this defense, but you guys get some Z's. Steve. Man, will the Eagles beat the New York Giants next week?
I don't know.
David Marcelli, you're alcoholics. I really don't think that I'm an alcoholic by definition. I can lay off drinks whenever I want. An alcoholic would not be able to do the same. Dennis Designs does not have an IG. He's telling Brazzi Smacks. All right, Chip, you want to do your beer bong and then we can skedaddle?
Do it.
Unless y'all want to continue to send us super chats to support the show. We won't say no to that. I want to get back to this. Philly, City of Champions. This is what I want to get back to. And I thought we were getting back there with the Phillies. I was never more convinced that a Philadelphia team was going to win a championship than the Phillies this past year. Lost to the D-backs. Lost game 6 and 7. Sick. And now this Eagles team is floundering down the stretch. Marcella said they're going to lose next week. How bad would that be, man? Frank Reich, offensive coordinator next year. My issue with Reich, man, he's not creative either. Fernando, there he is, the all-time troll. Philly stinks. They might lose to the Saints or Bucks. Hey, we said the same, man. They could lose to the Bucks. I think they'd beat the Saints, but that Saints defense is pretty damn good, and the Superdome is a tough place to play. Fat Cat, why would we fire last year's coordinators? Well, Jonathan Gannon's a head coach and Shane Steichen's a head coach now. So they didn't fire him. They moved on. And they got head coaching jobs. Brazzi Smack, serious question. You think Ertz or Sue could help in any way? No, not at this point. Maybe Ndamukong Suh wouldn't give up 220 rushing yards today.
I don't know. There's a reason they're not on team.
Yeah. Samem, what are your possibilities for new coordinators? Man, I did a Brian Johnson replacements video as Chip is about to rip this beer bong right here. Type Chip in the chat.
Let's do it.
You know, I think you look to the Shanahan tree, the Kyle Shanahan tree, to get some creativity within this offense. You might look at Frank Reich, but he just doesn't give you anything from a creative sense. Joe Brady's with the Bills. I don't think he's going anywhere. Yeah. Is that a warm beer or cold beer? Yeah, the cold ones. They hit your throat. Pause. Dr. Bonaparte Chase, I think we lost because you weren't on the game. Some people are talking. Yeah, there's rumors out there that is the reason. Words of wisdom. I do think I'm going to the Super Bowl regardless of if the Eagles or Niners make it or not. I think I'm going to be there for the week for Chat Sports. Kind of on the DL here. Marcella, Chip did finish it. He did finish it. Brazzi, I had to do what I had to do, man. It wasn't my decision. Is what it be. All right. Alling, losing hope. Captain D'Alberto, Izzy B, Dawkins here, Elijah Stovall. Where'd those guys go? You know what's crazy, Alling, is that Elijah returned last Wednesday, and he dropped to 50. I will hit you up, Words. I got your number. I also didn't get a chance to see your DM from the Krug show. I was pretty busy this weekend, but I'll catch you up on those at some point. All right, we're going to sign off here. I know it wasn't a watch party, but thanks for tuning in. Still 2,500 views, $200 in super chats. Thanks so much for supporting the program here. And we'll be back Wednesday for a live show. And videos every single day year-round because that is what we do. I hope everybody out there has a fantastic and safe New Year's Eve. The Eagles kind of ruined our Christmas, and they kind of ruined our New Year's Eve. But we keep it moving. I guess sports isn't everything, but us as sports fans, it does get us bent out of shape. But I hope despite the loss, you're able to have a fun New Year's Eve. Stay safe. Get an Uber if you have to. And if you need a Venmo, just holler at me. I got you. For Chip, I'm Chase. For the Bird Gang, we're out. Happy New Year's Eve. Hope y'all ring in 2024 in a fun way. And we'll catch you next time here on the show. See ya.